One of the latest would-be terrorists in the United States is so young we can't even show his picture or say his name. He's a 16-year-old South Carolinian who was just sentenced to a juvenile prison in an alleged plot to join ISIS and attack military bases in the U.S. And he's not alone. Homegrown terror threats popping up all over America. So with threats this widespread, are we spending enough to stop another terror attack on the homeland? Hi, everybody. I'm David Asson. Welcome to Forbes on Fox. Let's go in focus to find out with Steve Forbes, Mike Ozanian, Elizabeth McDonald, Sabrina Schaefer, John Tamney, and Mark Tadji. EMAC, are we doing enough?
No, we're not doing enough. Listen, I'm not for a police state. I don't like government surveillance. I'm not talking about that. That's not what this issue is about. The Congressional Research Service said since 2011, September, since 9/11, there have been 74 plots by radicalized Americans, people radicalized here. And they were stopped, thank God, before anybody was hurt. The Boston Marathon bomber, those guys were radicalized Americans. So the thing is, they're not really pouring across the border. They're tourist visas where these people are getting, and they're overstaying their tourists, committing terrorist acts. I think we need better policing there. Mark
Tadji, not only are we seeing all these threats, but the American people thinks we should be doing more. 81% of the American people says ISIS does pose a real security threat to the U.S. What say you?
Well, I think that we could be doing a better job of sharing information among law enforcement agencies, but I think we also have to be very careful about civil liberties. I mean, this reminds me of kind of the communist Red Scare in the 30s and 40s, where we thought everyone was going to become a communist and take over the country. So, yes, I agree. I want to be protected against terrorism, too. But how far do we stretch this? How much do we give up in civil liberties in our society where we turn ourselves into a police state here? We're very close to that right now.
Unlike the Red Scare days, I mean, we have had attacks here. We have had individual plots that really sought out to do a lot of damage. And, of course, we had 9/11.
Well, that's right, but you have to think that intelligence is doing something in this country. They got those 6 people in Minnesota from the Somali community, so I think they're doing what they can. The problem is, David, freelancing. These people on their own, 1 or 2 can get together, as we saw in Boston, and do real murderous attacks. So I think we're probably doing what we can. We obviously, intelligence sharing, as Mark pointed out, we could do more of that. But how much more can you do, especially against freelancers? It's not just here in the United States. It's all over Europe. You're getting these freelance attacks.
Sabrina, I'm willing to bet if there is an attack on the homeland, another attack that really causes mass injuries or deaths, we're going to be spending more than we are now.
I think so, but I do also think that we have to remember that we're a country of 300 million people, and these are a few outliers that are very, very dangerous. But we have to make sure that we're not establishing policies, as Mark suggests, that are going to put, sort of the onus on the rest of us. I think one of the things that we really want to hope that our government is doing is working with the American Muslim community to root out, radicals within these communities. I think we should be relying on, sort of larger spokeswomen and men, people like Ayaan Hirsi Ali, people like Majid Nawaz, who have written about what it's like to be part of these radical communities and how you can identify people who are maybe getting sucked into them and help them out of it, so that we're sort of using those services more effectively.
Well, that would be helpful. But, Mike, we don't want to scare people. But on the other hand, you look at how porous our borders are, and you wonder, the terrorists clearly are taking note of that and doing their best to get in that way, aren't they?
Yeah, I'd feel a lot more comfortable, David, if we had a president who adhered to the Constitution instead of issuing orders to the Border Patrol and saying, don't enforce the laws there. We don't know who a lot of these people who are coming into the United States, what their backgrounds are, and instead of having a president say, hey, just let anybody in, and then also let's give them Social Security identification and all that sort of stuff, we need to do a much better job just following the law.
And, John, you look at the map of all those states it really is from one coast to the other and all the flyover in between.
Well, I think the map reveals the answer to this. The facts are most people are not murderers. And so if government is going to go after all the presumed terrorists, we are going to be incarcerating a lot of innocent people. I don't think we want to live in a country like this. I think this is very dangerous.
Well, Emac, we don't want to live in a country that is a police state, obviously, but isn't there something between what we're doing now and a police state?
Yeah, listen, it takes one person just to destroy so many lives. My God, look at what happened in Boston. Look what happened here in New York City, at the Pentagon, in Pennsylvania.
Fort Hood. Of course, what's happening overseas, in Paris, in Kenya, et cetera.
So many families hurt, so many lives destroyed. We're so focused on grandma with her tweezers in the airport, and we're so focused on distracting political fights, politicized fights about the border, that we're wasting so many resources there when we could do things that the police are doing now. Community networking and behavioral profiling. It's working in Maryland, Los Angeles, and Minnesota.
Mark, do you think that's acceptable, or would that be too much in your eyes?
I think we have to get to the bottom as to why people want to join these organizations and understand this kind of a profile. I don't agree that we lock our borders and we pass more laws. Let me just be clear with you. You think that we don't understand why people want to kill it? I mean, isn't it more important just to stop them rather than try to understand them? I think we need to understand this problem so we can try and solve it. And that does not mean more laws. It does not mean more guns. It does not mean more fences on the border. I mean, come on, guys.
Well, come on,
we have
Steve,
to be able to combat this. We have to figure out what the problem is here.
Okay, I understand. But, Steve, the fact is we have been dealing with evil for a long time now, at least going back a couple of thousand years. Do we really need to understand why people want to blow other people away? I think it's just a matter of trying to stop them, right?
we need to understand it.
Yeah,
we need to combat it. We need to understand it.
Go ahead, Steve.
Human nature has not changed. You're always going to have evil outliers, and the thing is, you got to stop them when you can. And one of the questions that should be asked is, border's been made note of, but are we doing enough in terms of some of these mosques where we have real suspicions that evil things are taking place there or being plotted there? Instead of curtailing police intelligence, local intelligence, we should be encouraging it. Prevention, maybe we can understand them, but I'd rather prevent them from doing it in the first place.
Sabrina, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I think to Mark's point is that we don't have to, this is not about sympathizing with terrorists so much as sort of understanding what's causing this motivation. And I think one area that we do need to look like it as well is our prisons. We know that these are breeding grounds for extremists, different kinds of extremists, the Black Liberation Army and the Aryan Nation. We need to see that these are vulnerable populations. What's making them vulnerable, and how can we intersect them earlier?
Hold on a second. Emac, I'm kind of a simple guy. I see people that appear to enjoy killing other people. That's all I have to understand about their motivation. Yeah. That's simple enough for me. Is that too simple?
No, you're simple and a very nice guy, by the way. Listen, what happens here is it's not rocket science. We know why they're doing it. They're getting radicalized on the Internet. They're disenfranchised. They're poor. We get all that. That has been a storyline that's been out there for about 15 years now. And what we got to do, and I'm sorry to get head up about this, because I'm tired of people having their limbs blown off or being blown up at work. It is so wrong, and that is the worst kind of civil rights infraction ever.
Mike,
we know what is going on, and we've got to stop them.
Is this a problem of not understanding these people? Is that what this is, Mike?
No, what the problem is, and it's a big problem, too, that the Republicans are part of, because they confirm Loretta Lynch as the Attorney General. She is the same mold as Eric Holder. She's going to not enforce current laws. She's already said she supports Holder. That's a big problem.
Steve, quickly.
And the bottom line is the success of ISIS and these other extremists like Iran around the world is motivating people, the psychopaths, to join up. Do it abroad, make our problems easier here at home.
John Tamny, I'm going to end with you because you're having trouble talking today, but go ahead.
Well, if we're worried about the borders, legalize immigration, and then we can look for the people who are sneaking across. It seems pretty basic.
I agree.
Look for the people who are trying to hide themselves coming in.
All right. I shouldn't have ended with you because you started a whole nother argument that we don't have time for now. Thank you, gang.
Idea.
Meanwhile, a reality show cast member winning millions of dollars in 2 separate whistleblower payouts. But some here say rewarding whistleblowers is actually a crime. So should they do what's right for free? The debate coming up.